Hi guys, welcome back to round 4 of the Gentlemen's Racing League. This week we're in China. Weather is dry through qualifying and wet in the race. So from the beginning of the race, light rain, then to heavy rain and back to dry towards the end. So that's really interesting. Usually the softs wouldn't be useful in the race, so everyone would qualify on mediums. Now all of a sudden we can qualify on softs. And likely no one really prepared for this. I definitely didn't, although I did do time trial before, but in the last days I only prepared for really the medium qualifying and then the race. The first couple hot laps here are decent, drove them pretty safe. The second one was really pretty much the maximum I can extract with driving safe. So here we are on my final hot lap then. There's a little bit to be gained in every corner by pushing a bit more. But the problem is, if I'm not in the flow, I might as well lose this time really quickly. As you can see right here, for example, flicking the car over a bit more than I wanted to. Could have won time through there, but I end up losing a bit. Just have to be really aggressive on throttle all the time. And yeah, the problem is without coming from time trial, it's really difficult to make a consistent hot lap with the setup on softs. So I am slightly up here, but really I can't go much quicker than my last hot lap. Don't get an ideal acceleration out of here and lose a tenth again. So yeah, we're down on my second run and it's not ideal, but there's a couple corners left to go. I know there's a bit of time to be won through there, and since I'm not up anyway and it's my last run, I can really risk the car, risk the invalidation and just, yeah, still down tenths. So I can absolutely risk the car now in the final turns, throw it over, risk the invalidation, and that gains me actually 1.5 tenths of my previous time. So that's very nice time, 29.6. That's pretty much the maximum I can do. So that's P2 with Dizzy on pole with an absolutely fantastic 29.4. So congrats to him on the pole position and my teammate right beside me. Alright, so here we are then in the wet race. There's a question about setup. I decided to reduce my fuel because I can't really use too much anyway, so I only take +1 lap of fuel. And car setup wise, I decide to go for +1 pip of wing than I would in a dry track usually. Not really for the corners, but I found in practice that you gain a lot in the braking zones, so that's why I want this extra dot, this extra pip of front downforce. So here we are at the race start. P2 getting a good launch, yeah. So supposedly this bug was fixed, the bug where the lobby host could get an early start. Apparently not, last time this happened in Australia, so we have to give up this position to Dizzy here definitely. He's closed the gap here, so I decide to lift off out of the acceleration zone. Passes me on the inside and now back to race pace. So the first couple laps we have to really try to find the grip here, see what's possible on these tires and this rain. It does seem really quite wet, even for inters. You can see Dizzy really understeering there. Just trying to take it very gentle here, but I don't have a lot of trust in the car yet. Just short shifting a lot. I've done some practice in the wet, but it's really different every time, so you just have to drive it slow, experiment a bit with how much the car can take by almost tickling it a bit on the accelerator. You can see my rear acts out a bit there, but that's okay. That's really what I have to do a few times to really see how much grip there is. I outbrake myself a bit here. It's not too terrible though, without DRS or anything. Really, it's so difficult to overtake anyway, and with me deploying a ridge and overtake on the straights, there's as long as I don't make any huge mistakes too fast, you just can't get past. By now, I'm starting to get a bit more comfortable in the conditions. It's still not very nice to drive in the rain though, obviously, but really I figured out how much I have to short shift, how much I can push here really. You can just see the guys around me are struggling a bit as well, just by looking at the changing deltas all the time. Sometimes they gain a couple tenths, sometimes they lose a couple tenths. Still really short shifting a lot and trying to rotate the car on throttle where possible. This helps me with finding the grip and really knowing that I'm actually driving on the limit. Also out of here really short shifting a lot into 5th gear. So we're in pretty much a stable race situation now. There's around 1 second between every car in the top 6. So there's no need to worry about having to defend or attack. We just keep the car pointing in the direction of the track and optimize for total race time. Here we are a couple laps later here. Been putting in these laps, these consistent laps. The gaps have widened a bit, but the overall race situation is still the same. Just have to keep driving as consistently as I have up to here.
Safety car.
Alright, safety car. So lap 5, there's really no point in pitting yet. The tires are only at 20%. The only really kind of interesting thing about the safety car was that the tires are just so difficult to keep warm, and at this point I'm actually quite worried because my tires are super cold. So you can see on my MFD they're blue, meaning they're way too cold. So I'm desperately trying to warm them up. The race is supposed to restart at the end of the lap and tires are still cold. That's not very good. Yeah, so DC actually restarts the race on the second to last corner here. I completely missed the restart, so lose a second right here. And with still cold tires, I'm a bit exposed, too fast for you now in the Ferrari behind. So I just have to go slightly defensive here, make the corner a bit tighter than it usually is. Right, really short shift out of here. As long as I have a slow exit, that's not too much of a problem. I just can't get a loose rear end when he's so close, because that risks an incident and it really risks losing the position. So we hang on there, and now it's just really about putting in these laps. The tires have warmed back up. It's just being consistent, doing the laps over and over. Not losing too much time to DC.
2 laps until the pit window.
Here we are on lap 13 then.
10 minutes minutes left of this rain, then we think it's going to dry up. 10 minutes.
With my tires at 38, 40, 42%, the rain is supposed to last another 10 minutes. So at this pace, this would be now around 6-7 laps. And at 40%, I think I can make it there. But I will definitely have to do some tire saving. So at this point I decide to start short shifting a bit more again to get the most out of these tires and make them last as long as I can. I really have to expect to stay on these tires until like lap 19 or so, which means they will be quite worn by the end. It's really important to not get too much slip right now, not too much understeer.
ETA on this rain clearing up is about 10 minutes, so just keep your concentration out there. Inters look like the best tyre for now.
Another lap later here.
Current forecast is 5 or 10 more minutes of rain before it dries up. Inters seem like the
So my
fastest tyre for
engineer
now.
tells me there's 5 to 10 minutes, so that is in line with what he told me before. And at this point Dizzy pits and I commit to staying out until the rain clears. So that will be very interesting now. I expect this strategy to work out here because in the wet conditions usually tire percentages are not so relevant as in the dry conditions, as long as the tires make the distance at all. So I really just have to avoid a puncture and then I should be golden. Obviously the driving will become a bit more difficult as the grip starts to get less and less. Dizzy rejoins 19 seconds behind. Now I just have to do these laps over and over again. And by the time it has stopped raining and the track has become dry again, it's me and Gopta are the only ones who haven't pitted yet. Dizzy overtook Gopta and we lost on the previous lap. And we still have a 12-second gap to Dizzy, which is great because it's dry now. So as you can see, my tires are absolutely shot at 73% on the rear left.
No rain expected. No rain expected for the time being. Not sure whether dries or inters are faster. We're right on the crossover.
So I really want to get off these tires and I'm very happy that the engineer now finally tells me that the crossover point has come.
Check your
So
MFD for a
I
new
decide
strategy
to
option.
go for the default suggestion of the engineer, that is the medium tires.
Okay,
In my
copy that.
practice these softs didn't really last too long and they dropped off very quickly, so I don't want any surprises. I don't need to do any kind of amazing lap times, I really just need to hold this gap of 11 seconds for 7 laps. So in fact I can drop 1.5 seconds a lap. Just need to be consistent, not make any mistakes, so the mediums are just the safer choice.
Okay, the stewards have
DRS
we can take you
enabled,
this lap.
so now it's definitely the dries that are faster. Alright, so at this point it's really our race to lose here. 7 laps to go and 10-second advantage. The Racing Point mechanics right there preparing Dizzy's soft tires, so he's about to pit for the softs.
Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound.
At this point the race is pretty much only between me and the 2 racing points. 9 seconds gap to DC. 8 seconds, so that's fine. Just dropping a second a lap. I could go maybe a second a lap quicker here, but I just don't want to risk anything. Decide to just manage the gap, take my time, there's no need to rush anything. Additionally, his softs will drop off towards the end of the race.
This is your final lap of the race.
So here we are then on the final lap, final 2 corners. Absolutely cruising to the finish line. There's no way DC could have caught us here unless we make a absolutely huge mistake. So that's GG, a race win. Race win number 1 for Red Bull. Nice. So that race was definitely won on strategy, not on pace. DC had the pace on me. I had a bit luck with making the right strategy call here, had a bit more tires left. And my teammate brings it over the line on 6th place for some great constructors points. So Red Bull in a position to challenge now for the constructors title as well. Ranky gets driver of the day. And here we are then, P1. Absolutely magnificent race. Thanks to everyone who raced, it was great fun. And I'm excited for next week in the Netherlands, in Zandvoort. See you then, bye!